Alright, hey guys, well, welcome back. It's been a while since I reviewed some films, so I got a few movie reviews actually sort of lined up for you guys. And I've been actually cut busy with some other things, trying to get some gaming in, done whenever I can. And it's been a bit of a lot of work recently, I would say, for me. Regardless, I have to get these out so that I can sort of keep it as keep the reviews going, and just in case someone were to refer back in time, at least they can just check what I really have watched or have not watched in terms of reviewing. But there's a few other films that I did watch that I decided not to review just because they were very casual, like casual watch. Like some movies I check it out on TV, or I check it out when I want to switch my brain off, and sometimes those things I don't really care about. They're probably not very good movies either, and they don't really catch my eye. So The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It was not a James Wan film. I think everyone knows that. And going into the film, you definitely can feel it. You can see it in a lot of the scenes that the style The Devil Made Me Do It used was not as good as the first two Conjurings. It was different, but at the same time, it didn't really give us anything new, anything unique. It was not really that enjoyable in terms of the way it brought in the fear factor. It definitely does all those classic jump scare type things where it drops the sound low and then boom, jump scare. But as for the story and the plot itself, it was a very how can you put it? Like, we went from a ghost, or rather a witch in the first film, the first Conjuring. A witch was haunting this family. The spirit of the witch, technically. And then from the spirit of the witch, we went to a ghost and a demon in the second film. But in the third one, we actually have sort of a caster, like some sort of a witch, a living one, in fact, battling off against our protagonist, sort of. And the two of them basically have to pull their shit together and try to get this thing through. But it sort of knocks us away from the relationship that we've built with these two characters, in the sense where in the first two films it always felt like we were actually looking at some form of a documentary, of these two people, these two what do you call these sort of ghost hunters, exorcists, or however you wanna put it. And they've been a part of this, like, the Warrens family. And do they have anyone else that they brought back? Actually, no. Maybe Father Gordon, I think, was like a previous character or is he from another film? I can't remember. But the Warrens are the ones that we have really built a relationship with over the few films that we watched, the first two films. And it really felt like we were supposed to be introduced to them in a form of a documentary, where the Warrens actually go through these cases. And the first two definitely felt like those. They're going out to help a family, and they end up in a case together with them. But in this one, it really felt a bit disconnected from that sort of a format. And we get introduced to a new format where they're just doing some random investigating completely by themselves. Like in the first film, there was some sort of a police officer. And in the second film, I believe they had the assistance of the media as well, came to check on them a few times. They even had like some family that they were working with. In this one, they do a lot of solo investigating, and they do end up in a lot of difficult like situations because of that. And it felt really weird considering the things they've been through. Like, even in this scene, this is the very first scene of the third installment of The Conjuring, and they are seen clearly working in a team to sort of perform an exorcism on this little kid, and or exorcism, however you pronounce it. And after the kid gets exorcised, the spirit or whatever goes into that boy there, second position. And it's surprising to say that none of them could sense that this boy had caught it, whatever it was. Especially Lorraine, knowing that she has the ability to see the unseeable, and the father who is there, who performs the exorcism, it seems like neither of them had any ability to sense the fact that it had jumped from this kid to this boy. And I mean, those things are, those things are completely excusable. Maybe there's a way of masking itself. But even the scare scenes, like this water bit scare scene, is like whatever. It doesn't really. It's not scary. This first introductory scene was pretty creepy. The kid jumping around in demonic form and bending and whatever. But after this first part of the like weird CGI moments in the first part of this film, the rest of the film doesn't really have those moments captured very well. Like the rest of the film are just them running around and battling against this sort of witch who sends a bunch of things after them, which was okay, a little bit interesting, but it just didn't have that kind of captivating fear factor, the build up, the mystery. Like we all know what it was, we all knew what it was, and it didn't really have the twists of the first two Conjurings. Like if you remember the first Conjuring, we all knew that she was, the lady was, eventually possessed. But the way they introduced how the possession involved a witch that wanted to sacrifice her children was a bit interesting. And then the second one, they actually introduced how the what do you call this? The first ghost was actually being manipulated by the demon Valak. So in this one, we kind of just knew that there was this witch that they gotta fight against, and she's the one who's behind all of it, and they just gotta find her and then defeat her. And the way they defeat her too was rather, I don't know how would I say, underwhelming. It's just like Ed has to go with the bat to go and beat her up or something, and he destroys her altar. And Lorraine is just having this sort of psychic battle with her in a psychic realm, but they don't really, are they not really prepared for it? Considering they're the Warrens, what would have been cool for me would be if they had used the tools that they have in their basement, in their arsenal, basically to their advantage in some way. Like form some sort of a mini pact. Give some sort of an offering to one of these spirits or demons that they have actually captured, and tell them that I will give you an offering of perhaps some goat sacrifice, or maybe something that you always wanted, like another spirit that I already have. I'll give you a bunch of these things, and you can take them with you if you actually help me defeat this witch. I think something like that would have been pretty interesting, because it would put them on level against the witch. But here it seems like just these two ordinary people can actually defeat the witch as ordinary people, where the witch can summon all sorts of amazing demons, but she just gets defeated anyway. It really doesn't make much sense to me. So The Conjuring 3 for me was a little bit underwhelming, but it's not a bad film by any means. It's just that it's not a good enough film to keep up with how the first two Conjurings did it. If it was a film by itself completely, it didn't hold the name, or rather the title, Conjuring, I think it would have been okay. But because the expectations are high after the first two films, it really fell short. I think they should have just split off the universe and done it as something else entirely. But pulling it back into the Conjuring universe and making it struggle to keep up seemed kind of underwhelming. Also, the jump scares are not as good as how they did it, especially in Conjuring 2. Conjuring 2 just had some of the best jump scares of any horror film, and also not just a jump scare, just certain scenes with Valak just standing with the eerie music playing in the background. I think those moments are just so creepy compared to what is done in this film. Like we do see a bunch of things show up and try to attack people, but they feel very physical and not very mystical, and therefore kind of seem like threats that you can just take on by yourself with your bare hands. It's not really something that, you gotta, believe in fate or use the power of fate, or, pray to God or whatever to defeat the demon. You don't really have that sort of fear. Like, Ed basically goes to beat the witch with a bat. I'm not kidding, like a baseball bat or something like that. So, at least that's what it is, because I watched this film a month ago. And that's pretty much what I still have more or less in my memory. It's not that great in terms of what's memorable. Like a lot of the final battle scenes are just this lady going around blowing some dust in people's face, making them, I don't know, affected in some way by her magical abilities to make them see things. And that's pretty much it. So as for my rating for The Conjuring, let me pull up something here for you guys. Um, there we go. It's a 4 out of 10 film. It's not bad by any means. I would want to rate it lower, like honestly, but I think I have to see it as its own film, and therefore give it a 4 out of 10. If you ask me, like just as what it is, like as what it should be, like as what they built it as, which is the third installment of the Conjuring, I'd give it a 2 out of 10 because it's really really bad compared to the first two Conjurings. It does not feel like it's part of the same universe. It doesn't seem to have the same intelligence of the first two Conjurings. It didn't have the music and the intensity and the creepiness and the mystery and the twist. None of those are there. It's a completely different format, completely different film. And for those reasons, I have to drop the score even lower. But as a standalone film, it's probably a 3 or 4. So you can take it as an average and just say that it's a 3 out of 10 film. And yeah, it's just so many reasons I could point out. But I think I want to keep this rather simple and not drag on too long. So that's it from me for this one. I'll see you in the next review. I got some pretty good ones coming. Trust me, there are some really good movies that I actually watched, and I want to talk about those. So I'll see you guys in a bit.